Welcome to Envista Experts on Demand, your unbiased, informative source for supply chain and IT best practices and industry updates. Today we're talking with Jim Barnes, CEO at Enspire Commerce, a division of Envista, on the topic of the 8 stages of the order lifecycle. Jim, Omnichannel has created a lot of confusion in the market, and retailers, it seems like they don't quite know where to start. Can you talk about the 8 stages of Omnichannel and why it should matter to retailers?
If you look at what matters to our retailer is they really want to create one unique brand experience for that buyer, that shopper. So if you're a luxury brand or a sporting good retailer, how do you create one unique brand experience for that particular buyer? So regardless of where they buy, when they buy, how do I basically make sure that I make the promise to them, but I can also keep the promise to them? The challenge with that from an omni-channel perspective and from a supply chain perspective is the complexity of really having a few things. First and foremost is having applications that are very customer service centric, where you're basically trying to provide exceptional customer service regardless of where he or she buys from. Sounds simple in the surface, but a lot of times most retailers and a lot of distributors have got legacy applications that are not customer service centric. 2, it's really about providing complete enterprise inventory visibility. And unfortunately, again, a lot of legacy applications out there silo inventory by channel. The objective is really not to have channels, but to have really enterprise inventory visibility across all channels that I can allocate and route orders across inventory regardless of who owns it. But I'm meeting the needs of that particular customer based upon the fact that I've got inventory visibility. First and foremost is really having inventory visibility and also having a customer service centric application.
Just in summary, can you walk us really quickly through those 8 stages and summarize this process for our audience?
First and foremost, we have to have inventory visibility. First, it's mission critical. Without it, it's very difficult to basically provide a great experience to that customer and make that promise, but more importantly, keep that promise. Second, we have to have items. Not all item attributes are the same, and those item attributes actually need to be established in a hierarchy that is by channel. Third component is really that customer care. At the center of any enterprise commerce management platform or any technology out there is that customer service centric model that allows me to take care of that customer first and foremost. That's customer centric, not necessarily order centric. Followed by the 4th is really payment. We don't want to mess up his or her credit card processing. We want to make sure that we do the right authorization. We've got the right fraud protection in place. We've got the actual right settlement process in place when the actual item is actually fulfilled. Followed by order routing, which is our 5th stage of our life cycle. Order routing is mission critical. I want to make sure that I understand and I can weigh the difference between cost and service. Followed by really the 6th is really fulfillment. So again, I want to be able to fulfill from any place, anywhere, anytime. That could be a store shipping, that could be a pickup from store type situation, that could be drop shipping from a vendor or drop shipping from my own distribution center. The 7th is shipment, which is really around shipping a product and making sure that we effectively ship it in the most effective manner, meaning that we are picking the right carrier, we've got carrier compliance, and also providing visibility back to somebody in customer care in terms of where that order is. If you look at today, the number one call that our call center gets is where's my shipment? Where's my product? So it's important that we not only pick the right carrier and we have the right carrier compliance from that perspective, but we also have the right tracking as well to make sure we provide that great experience back to that customer. And then really followed by 8th, which is the hardest. There has to be an integration framework because I'm going to be integrating to different disparate applications. I'm going to be integrating a point of sale, be integrating to most likely a e-commerce shopping cart of some fashion, be integrating into an ERP application, and more importantly, there may be an EDI component where basically I got to send EDI orders to a 3PL or to a vendor. So, wrap it all up, that's our 8th one, which is really around integration.
Looking at how to optimize the 8 stages of the omnichannel order lifecycle, where would that retailer start? How do they start implementing them within their own organization?
Well, the first place to start, there are actually a number of workflows, and I'll name them. I think the 2 critical workflows is understanding what you're doing today from a technology platform perspective and understanding the integration points as to where I'm going to get inventory from. But I think where a lot of retailers miss is that there needs to be a customer experience workflow. You need to be sitting down and looking through your business through the eyes of a customer, and how do you want to impact him or her through this omnichannel experience. So you really need to go through a customer experience roadmap as well, in combination with what your as-is processes are, from a technology perspective and then fill in those gaps. And then from there, obviously, you've got an end goal in mind, and then how you actually can develop an implementation roadmap strategy based upon that end goal in mind.
How does retailers start with obtaining that visibility that you were talking about?
The way they're going to start with obtaining the visibility is it's actually a little more complex. If you think about it, most retailers are going to have 3 or 4 different disparate applications that they're actually using a day to actually to run their business. First and foremost, they're going to have a point-of-sale system. So if you're a 100-store chain or a 1,000-store chain, there's going to be a point-of-sale system that's going to have inventory at that localized level. What I mean by a localized level, SKU local quantity at that point-of-sale level. Many retailers are going to have a warehouse management system, and if they're not using a warehouse management system because they're doing their own fulfillment, then they're going to have a 3PL doing that fulfillment for them. So I need to have visibility to that 3PL. Most retailers are going to have some kind of e-commerce platform. So that e-commerce platform very simply allows them to merchandise and brand the product on the actual site, in addition to having the ability to manage authorized payment and a checkout process. So again, another integration point. What's important from a financial perspective is to ensure that I've got the ability to manage those transactions from a financial perspective. So again, I'm going to have revenue recognition coming in from multiple channels, and therefore the need to manage sales audit. Who gets basically credit for a e-commerce order that gets shipped from store? Who gets credit for a wholesale order that actually gets delivered? I mean, again, there's a whole sales audit component that needs to be defined and understood as well.
It's apparent that retailers have got to be more sophisticated in their processes and technology, and you've talked before about the importance of item attribution. Can you maybe address that for our audience?
We know that a lot of retailers struggle with how to manage their items, and not only manage their items, but manage the hierarchy and manage the associated item attributes with that particular item. So I'll give you a good example. Not all items, quite frankly, you want to ship from store. I may sell a kayak online, but I don't have the ability to actually ship that kayak from a store. It doesn't make economical sense to actually ship a kayak from a store location to a customer. You may have certain items in a catalog, so how do you manage that item through multiple channels? But more importantly, how do you attribute the item? The attributes that I need to have as somebody who's in the DC, being somebody who's actually physically shipped the product, is more logistically relevant, meaning things like dimensions, length, width, weight, height, etc. But if I'm in the store, I really don't care about length, width, and height. I may care about the different attributions in terms of color, style. So again, different attributes, quite frankly, are associated with that item depending upon the role that you are playing within that organization and how that item is getting fulfilled. So I think a lot of retailers struggle with that hierarchy, where unfortunately they have one hierarchy trying to actually manage those across all channels. When you think about it, there are different attributes that really should be significant or specific to that particular channel based upon the role and responsibility within an organization.
Walk us through payment processing and how retailers can deliver better customer service there.
Let's start with customer and payment together. They're an interdependent relationship. From a customer care, customer call center perspective, there's always a payment component. That payment component is going to be really in 2 shapes. It's going to be one with authorization and settlement, but it's also with credit, meaning that if I actually have a return process, I've got to manage the return process from that order as well. People are very sensitive around payment. There's also the payment side on the point of sale side. So again, if you look at what's going on in the market from a customer-centric perspective, and this is my point of view, is that at the end of the day, there needs to be an enabling technology platform where if I'm a customer call person or I'm somebody at the actual a sales operation person with a point of sale system, if you think about it, there's really a whole lot that's not a whole lot different between the 2 transactions. The processes themselves are the same. The difference is, in a customer call center, I don't have card present, I don't have product present, and the customer's not present. But that experience needs to be the exact same experience in terms of being intimate, just like if I'm a store operational person selling you a product face-to-face. What's the difference? The difference is the customer's present, the payment is present, and the product's present. But the overall flow, right, in terms of overall how you manage that process and provide that great, exceptional customer experience really should be the same. The unfortunate thing today is those 2 applications are typically separate. And in my opinion, they need to be same, or at least be on the same platform with different workflows based upon the role of the person who's actually enabling that transaction, but the reality is the platform should be the same. That way, as a retailer, all my customer experience from a clienteling perspective is sitting in one central data model that I can actually now provide a better service to that person.
Super, thanks, Jim. What's the next step?
Really what's next is, what are you trying to accomplish in terms of cost versus service models? And not all customers are the same. So therefore, from an order routing perspective, order logic perspective, when I'm optimizing my order fulfillment, regardless of where I'm fulfilling it from, is that how do I route those orders to ensure that I'm either looking at the lowest total cost to serve or the best service I can provide. Now again, service and cost sometimes can be basically in conflict with each other. I can provide great service at a very high cost. It's very difficult at times to provide low cost at a great service, but that's the objective. Finding that balance between cost versus a service model is really what major retailers and boutique retailers are trying to accomplish.
Let's talk about actual fulfillment and shipping and how that impacts customer service and what retailers need to be doing there.
The other two components of the 8 life cycles of an order are fulfillment and actual shipping. And the shipping component is really carrier-centric or transport-centric. The obvious is the fact that I can fulfill from my own distribution center or fulfill from a 3PL. The less obvious, but obviously maintaining, or I would say, matter of fact, a lot of retailers now want to actually ship from store or pick by store, or quite frankly, even drop ship from a vendor. The complexity there is, again, in terms of available to ship versus available to promise. But back to the fulfillment side. The fulfillment side from an omni-channel perspective, I think a lot of retailers have gone ship from store, and there's a lot of complexities from ship from store. First and foremost, it's not a very efficient process. If I've got a 30,000 square foot store, and let's just say I've got 40,000 unique SKUs at the UPC level, it's not like I've got a very structured back stock room that's laid out like my warehouse is in my own distribution center. First and foremost part is I got to find the inventory. Two, we know in terms of ship from store that most store inventory is not accurate. Unlike in a distribution center environment where you may be running at 99.95% inventory accuracy, you don't have that level or that luxury in a store. So there's time consumed finding inventory on a rack. And that obviously impacts service. So if you look at the fulfillment, just the simple fulfillment options that are out there today, I can fulfill from DC, I can fulfill from a 3PL, I can fulfill from a vendor if I can drop ship from that vendor, I can fulfill from store, but I can also pick up at store and I can actually ship from store to store. I can also ship from a DC to a store. So there's a number of different workflows and inventory flows from a fulfillment perspective that actually need to be thought through, and then the enabling technology has to be able to support that experience. Now from a shipping side, the key component is really carrier selection. And a good order management system or a good enterprise commerce management application has the ability to actually rate that transportation accordingly. This sounds simple, but it's really not. It can actually be very, very complex. And this is the key to the order management system and how an order management system's data model is structured. The first and foremost thing when you have an order, and I'm getting into little details here, but from a data model perspective, each order line has to really be think of as its own individual order. And here's a great example. I may have taken an order online where I'm shipping a large piece of furniture and I'm shipping a pillow. So it's going to my house. The furniture, by the way, has a different address than the actual pillow. And the pillow is going to be shipped out parcel, and the actual furniture is going to be shipped out white glove. So you can see very simply, like a couch and my pillow, if my data model cannot support different ship-to addresses, different carrier methods, and different service levels, then you can see the complexity of making sure that, and oh, by the way, let's make it even more complex, they may need to be able to ship together, right? There may be a rule that says, hey, don't ship the pillow without the actual couch, or quite frankly, you're allowed to ship the pillow without the actual couch. From a customer service experience perspective, you've got to be able to manage things at the order line level. And that's where the actual shipping and the carrier routing rules come in, because I can't ship a piece of furniture, obviously, on a parcel truck. I mean, you can, but obviously that would be very, very expensive. So that's where the shipping component comes into the 8 life cycles of an order.
Thanks, Jim. This was really informative and insightful. And thanks to our listeners for joining us today.